Hey guys, it's Aman
and Christina
from Our Rich Journey. We have some exciting news to share with you guys. We are building a tiny home here in Portugal. I could not wait to get that out because for so long we have been talking about doing something like this, and we finally have the opportunity to do it here in Portugal. You see, when Christina and I achieved financial independence and retired early, we had always talked about doing this one thing: building a tiny home. And so we get to bring you guys along on this next phase of our early retirement here in Portugal, the construction of a brand new tiny home.
So we are so excited to be sharing this process of building a tiny home here in Portugal with you. We've been giving you hints on our YouTube channel and on our Instagram page, but here we are going to be laying it all out from the very start of the process to the very end of this process. It's going to be a series of videos on this YouTube channel. So in this particular video, we're going to talk about what we plan to do with the tiny home. We're going to show you the location of where we're going to be placing the tiny home, and we're also going to show you the specific design of the tiny home that we're building. And then we're also going to be talking about some numbers related to this property that I think you guys are going to find really interesting.
Now, like Christina said, this is going to be a series of videos that we do on this tiny home build. Maybe it will inspire you to build your own tiny home at some point or another. But what is so important that is, if you guys are going to be following this journey, it's so important that you subscribe to our YouTube channel now. So many of you guys watch our channel and aren't actually subscribed. So make sure you subscribe to our channel, make sure you follow us on Instagram, and also visit us at ourrichjourney.com and check out our blog. But before we get into the tiny home build, we want to give you guys some context about why we think tiny homes are so important, especially for people pursuing financial independence. You see, there are so many benefits to this particular type of home, especially at this period in time when home prices are astronomical and affordability is at an all-time low. And what I mean by this is that more and more people are being squeezed out of the housing market and can't afford a place of their own. Well, tiny homes are a tremendous alternative to housing because it feels and looks like a real home. In fact, it is a real home.
So that is why we are so excited about doing this series of videos and taking you along this tiny home build journey with us, because we hope it will inspire you to think about your own housing situation and potentially building your own tiny home so that you can reduce costs of living, so you can downsize, you can minimalize, you can declutter. There are so many different benefits with tiny home living, and we hope to share them all with you in this series of videos.
And another benefit of tiny homes when it comes to pursuing financial independence is that by living in one, you can reduce your costs and thereby you can invest more money towards FIRE. Another alternative is that you can build this tiny home and rent it out, which is another way to increase your income and, of course, get you closer to financial independence.
So now let's shift over and let's talk about what we are planning to do with this tiny home. So if you have been following our journey, this tiny home, you know, is our third property here in Portugal. The first property was our primary residence, and we renovated the entire property. It's located on almost an acre of land, and this is our home. We love this home. So the second property that we bought required very little renovation whatsoever. It was move-in ready, and we purchased it, and we now use it as an Airbnb property. Now this third property, our tiny home, we are also going to be using it to generate income, but more importantly, we're using this property as a part of our plan to build generational wealth.
So let's go back to the second home that Christina mentioned, our Airbnb. Now, when Christina and I bought that Airbnb, we actually also bought a piece of property that was right next to that Airbnb. And that piece of property is where we are going to put this tiny home and rent it out as an Airbnb. That piece of property is beautiful. It looks out onto a tree line that is just amazing. You can go there and feel like you have escaped from the world. And so we are so excited to have just a blank slate to be able to site and develop this piece of property just for this tiny home.
So let's talk about the actual build of this tiny home. So Aman and I worked with a designer to design the perfect tiny home with all of the different aspects and amenities in this tiny home that we want. But one of the things we went back and forth with was whether or not we wanted to build the tiny home from scratch ourselves or whether we wanted to hire someone to build this tiny home for us. Now, if you follow our channel, you know that we are heavily into purchasing real estate, renovating real estate, and making a profit from that. In fact, we did that a lot in the Bay Area. We did this with our home here in Portugal, but we've never built a home from the ground up. And so for us, we were thinking about timing. For us to learn all of these things to build it from the ground up or to hire someone, we felt that it would be a lot more efficient hiring someone, getting it done quicker, and then putting it and making it available on Airbnb as soon as possible. So for that, we decided to go with a builder here in Europe.
And there's something else that made this decision relatively easy. We are busy parents. Now, you know that we are retired, but we are always traveling. Our daughters play sports, and we are just always on the go. And so to put in the time and dedication that is required to build a tiny home, we didn't have that ability to do at this particular moment. Maybe we'll build one ourselves in the future, but at this moment, we think it's more efficient to hire a builder to do it. I mean, this home is going to be amazing. And we think that we're actually gonna learn a lot about building this home because we're gonna be side by side with the builder while they're building it, and we're gonna be learning in the process. So at this point, let's take you guys into our tiny home and talk about the design. This is going to be the fun part. So let's start with the exterior of the home. This is how it will look when it sits on our piece of property adjacent to our other Airbnb. You can just see that it is going to be surrounded by nature. And one of the things that we're going to add to the tiny house after it is located on our property is a deck that people can enjoy. We're also going to be planting lots of plants around the tiny house and a little vegetable garden that our guests can go to and enjoy fresh vegetables.
Basically, we want to make this space super homey and comfortable on the inside, but we also want people to experience nature and be outside with the vegetables in the garden, in the forest, and really enjoy the total space around the tiny home. So now let's go inside the tiny home and give you a feel for how we're going to be designing this. So what we decided is we are going to make a 2-bedroom loft space where it can sleep 4 people. Now technically we can create a couch space to sleep 2 additional people, but this is really a tiny home and we want people to be comfortable in this space. So we're going to make it so it can sleep 4 people comfortably.
We also wanted to focus on bringing the outdoors inside by having lots of windows to bring in the natural light. You can see that we have these huge glass doors on both sides of the house. We also have a bar that will be extended from the kitchen to the outdoor deck. This again brings the feeling of bringing the outdoors inside and an integration that we really worked hard to create.
And again, the focus is really on making people feel comfortable. So we wanted to transfer a lot of the amenities that you would have in a normal home into this tiny home. So we have the regular standard toilet. It's not going to be a composting toilet. We're having a regular shower. We are having a washer and dryer in the unit, a standard fridge, a 4-burner stove, and an oven. And we're also even going to have an AC and heater unit for this tiny home.
We're also providing lots of seating. The loft has its own desk. We have seating that is right next to the living room that is kind of integrated with the kitchen. There are benches there. And you can see that the couch that we have in the living room, that's going to be a wonderful area for people to sit and look outside. Now, something else this tiny home also has is a lot of hidden storage. We have little nooks and crannies throughout the tiny home where you can store your clothes, your books, your luggage, whatever the case may be, there's a place to store it within this tiny home. Something else that the builder is also doing for us, they are going to be building us a storage shed that matches the tiny home's character. So we're not showing it in this video, but we'll show it in upcoming videos. And as a special bonus, if you go to our website and subscribe to our tiny house newsletter, we are going to be sharing a lot more details about this build and about some of the things that we are going to be putting in the tiny house, like the actual furniture, the actual appliances. Anything you can think about, we are going to be putting in our tiny house newsletter. So you want to make sure to subscribe to that newsletter at ourrichjourney.com. So that is our tiny house design. The next thing we want to talk about, and this is for all the people that follow our channel to figure out different ways to make, save, and invest money for financial independence, we want to talk about the money. Now, you guys know that we are transparent on our journey. We share with you how we go about making money so that you can also maybe be inspired to take on this same type of pursuit. And so when we invest in real estate, we are always looking for a certain return. But when we invest in real estate that is short-term, Airbnb type of rentals, we are looking for returns that need to be there to justify these types of purchases. Now, we are going to be buying this tiny home straight out, cash. We're not going to be financing it. And so what we're expecting as far as a return is 50% annually on that investment.
Now, some of you may hear that 50% annual return in profits and think that that sounds super high, but you have to remember that this is based off of our investment, which is the cost of the tiny home. Now, we don't generally expect a 50% annual return on our real estate investments. In fact, like we said, we have a second Airbnb property that we purchased here in Portugal, and it was not based off of expecting a 50% annual return. But again, that is a different type of investment that costs a different amount of money. And so we base it off of how much money are we putting into the investment and how much can we potentially expect to have each year in terms of profit.
Now we're going to dedicate an entire video to just go over all of the cost of construction, what we expect to get in rents, all of that good stuff so that you guys can run the numbers along with us. But that is going to be another video in this series. Again, it's really important that you subscribe to our channel and follow this series, but it is also really important that you also subscribe to our newsletter on our website, because we're going to be giving more real-time information there about the build, about our expenses, and about our expected return on this investment. And so if you guys have liked this video, if you want to see more videos like this, please let us know in the comment section. But always, as usual, give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and join the journey.